Good morning, everybody. It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also, I co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that team, reached out directly and indirectly to over 100,000 fathers around the world last year and the year before, pardon me. And as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. Look who we have here on a Friday. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, glad to be able to pop in early.
Wow. Well, pop in, period. Forget about early. Pop in, period. What's going on, Ryan Knight?
Yeah, things are definitely developing. For those that don't know who Dr. Knight, myself, Ryan Knight is.
Now it's Dr. Knight. What?
Okay. You always call me Dr. Knight, but I might run with it. I'm the co-founder and current co-executive director of the Afro Caribbean Business Network. We work with entrepreneurs of African and Caribbean heritage, really to figure out what stage their business is in and help them develop a strategy to grow their companies exponentially. So people might have heard the news that ACBN, we are eyeing one of the upcoming vacant Nordstrom locations. So this is the sneak peek.
Oh.
If you sell products, please get in contact with me. We actually have to get to a certain minimum, and we're going to do some info sessions to get deeper into it. But trust me, if you know somebody that sells products, household wares, clothing, beauty products, almost anything, think of Nordstrom, and we are going to fill it with Black vendors. So I'm very, very excited about the progression of the negotiations. But other than that, as you know, I'm an entrepreneur myself. I run Detailing Nights. So we are also doing our youth entrepreneurship program, which is coming up. So stay tuned for that. But yes, always good to see you, Dr. Vibe.
Good. Well, actually, just a number of things, but most importantly, let's shout out some of our family. Good morning, Marlon Stephen. Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah,
good morning,
Marlon.
Michelle Thorpe. Good morning. And also says, that's amazing news. Before we go any further, too, let's just make sure that if you can, subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, especially if you do that. Not only subscribe, but push the notification button so you get notified of upcoming Epic Conversations, or like it on Facebook or wherever you are, whether it's my platform or ACBN's platform. Like, and share. So before we bring our friend on, are you eyeing a specific location?
There's 3, I would say, that we're eyeing. So Nordstrom Rack in Mississauga, the Nordstrom at Yorkdale, and there's one at the Eaton Center. And people are asking me, it's like, oh, how's the negotiations going with Nordstrom? So this is not a negotiation with Nordstrom.
No, it isn't.
Nordstrom is exiting. It's actually our negotiation with our investors that are putting up the money. So when we do the info session, we'll dig a bit deeper into how much of an investment it's going to be to put forward the proposal needed, because we're going to be going up against some serious heavy hitters that are going to want that space. So it's a lot of moving pieces, but I'm saying I love challenges. I love to lean into complexity, and I feel our community is going to benefit for it. So yeah, it's quite difficult. I'm learning a lot in the new space of retail and how that investment to actually get into it works.
Wonderful. No, that's very exciting. And again, people think you're negotiating with Nordstrom. No, Nordstrom's only leasing the space. They're renting the space. They don't own it. They don't not at all. So let's some other things. Aldofina says, greetings, everyone. Good morning. Haven't seen you for a bit, Aldofina. Hope you're doing okay. Christopher Lawrence saying, good morning, Dr. Vibe and Ryan Oneil Knight. Christopher says, waiting for my email. What email? The last time you and I spoke, Christopher, I told you to go ahead. So I guess there's a miscommunication. Hope your event went fine this week. I think, was it last night?
I was able to yesterday. So I popped by. Shout out to Christopher Lawrence. Wonderful, intimate networking event. And Donovan Dill was there breaking it down about business model canvas. So that was good stuff.
Well, it's interesting. Donovan Dill and I go way back. I remember many years ago, he was running a City of Toronto program for entrepreneurs, and he asked me to come in and share. It's going a number of years back. So glad to hear that Mr. Dill had time to serve. Program alert. Here we go. Live this Sunday on Black Canada Talking, Perry Douglas.
Okay.
We'll be talking about his book, AI, Applied Intelligence, New Thinking for the Caribbean Prosperity in the 21st Century. So that's live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time this Sunday. For those who don't know Perry Douglas, I would say Perry Douglas was one of the guests that took the Morning Vibe to the next level in regards to engagement. Because when he came on last year and he had some interesting thoughts about, I'll put it out there, West Hall. he a lot of the engagement started to go woo. So back then, or we had a few other conversations with him during last year. He said he was working on a book. Well, the book is out now, and we're going to do a deep dive into the book and his thoughts about Caribbean prosperity, and I think also Black Canadian prosperity on Sunday at 5 p.m. So that's why you've got to follow, like, wherever you're watching this, especially on the Dr. Vibe platform, so you get notified. But it's going to be an epic conversation. Epic conversation.
Yeah, looking forward to that. And sorry, that's what time?
Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
5 p.m. Excellent. Yes.
So what's been going on this week other than taking over the retail world?
So we had our Durham Business Hub.
Yes.
So the ACBN's office in Ajax got to open. It'll be somewhat of a micro co-working space. Entrepreneurs can use it as a virtual business address. And I'll be there about half the time. So if you want to actually meet with me to get some business coaching and see what ACBN can do for your business. But shout out to Sandra and Jamal, Jamal from Empro Graphics does the events. He's been on the show with his pop-ups and family day events. So they're pretty much taking on ACBN East. So they're going to be our representatives for ACBN with the networking events that we do. And making sure that people can work out of the space. So if you're in Durham, and I know the current office is small, but we are looking for a bigger space, definitely to do our events. And one space is a Fury Groove. If you don't know Sanaj, she has this space where she does her dance classes, but she also uses it as an event space. So our next event, we're trying to do it there. And I don't know how many people watch the Junos, but Sanaj won a Juno for her work with her dance classes. So she was totally shocked. I think she's back in town. We should get her on the show to talk about her experience getting the flight.
You're the celebrity. People come to you, brother. People come to you. So that's what it's all about,
Yes.
But so tell. Okay, you know what? Let's get to our family first. So Fitness IQ Cam says, "Good morning, gentlemen," and yes, Mr. Celebrity. Yes, Ryan Knight is Mr. Celebrity, and says, "Congratulations." Roger Dundas, good morning, family. Thank you, Mr. Dundas. Wonderful, Roger and Camille Dundas and their wonderful children. Wow, lots of people popping this way. Klaus Derisman, how's the campaign trail, Mr. Klaus? Question for you, Ryan. Oh man, lots of people. Please visit ACBN in Durham region. Congrats, Ryan. Continued success. So, Ryan,
thank you.
How many people showed up for the opening, and how much space did you have?
So, 20 is tight. We had 50 people show up. So people were in the hallways, and I felt like I probably should have told our neighbors that we were doing something, because we had chairs in the hallways, even though we didn't even have chairs inside. It was like packed. But shout out to Ross Kadastra and Stephanie from the BBPA, the Black Business and Professional Association, because they, I believe, live in the East, so they popped by to say hi. Natalie from the Whitby Chamber of Commerce, she was able to pop in and say congrats. And also Stacy and
Buchanan.
Not Buchanan.
Buchanan? Okay.
No,
Barry, okay.
Hadn't seen her in a long time. She does a lot of consulting with us around like how to advocate for the government. So it was great to see her in person after a good, actually, I think I saw her at Toronto Community Benefits event, but it felt like a long time. But yes, Thank you to everybody. And if I could name Christopher Lawrence pop by, if I could name everybody, I would. But it was great to see everybody.
So on Monday we will probably look at this. Okay, processing. The campaign was okay. I didn't get in, but I learned quite a bit about myself and campaigning. And the next time I will go and try again. That's right. You didn't lose. You learned. That's it. That's it. That's it. And Alafina's is so excited to see the new ACBN space. There you go. Yes. And we're going to get to our friend because he's got a lot of knowledge bombs to drop. So we'll probably talk about this on Wednesday because we're going to do probably an open house Monday. But Ryan, have you heard anything about the whole reparations controversy in San Francisco?
No, I did not.
So just very, very high level. For people who haven't paid attention, in the news, there's a debate on the San Francisco City Council, and one of the motions they're trying to pass through is that every Black person who's living in San Francisco get awarded $5 million for reparations.
Come on, $5 million. Wow. I heard there was a rumor of like 250,000.
No, $5 million. And then the other part is now the NAACP of San Francisco saying, no. We'll give us the money and we'll create programs, things in Latin. People saying, no. You haven't done anything else for 50 years. Wow. No. We want, so we'll talk unless we have a late guest, get ready on Monday. We're going to talk about reparations. We're going to get into the San Francisco, and we'll talk about, should there be reparations for Black Canadians?
Man, that's a hot topic.
There you go. So
we're going to give them the money. Wouldn't that be like billions of dollars?
Yes.
Wow.
So that's just a teaser for Monday. I have some thoughts on it. Where we go here. Fitness IQ goes, and then also Surf Your Life says, yes, give us two. Okay, so get ready for Motivational Monday. You're talking about reparations. So we're setting this up. But you know what? Every third Friday of each month, we have a friend of the family on. And I just got to say something too. I do some helping of different people. And yesterday, Ray McMillan spent a total about 3 hours with two individuals that I'm serving, and he was dropping knowledge bombs, and both the individuals appreciated it immensely. Mm-hmm. It was I learned a lot. They learned even more than I did, but I learned a lot. They learned a lot. So we have him back on today. He's ready to go, and we're gonna bring him to the stage. So Ray McMillan, good morning, good morning, good morning. How are we?
I am doing very well, gentlemen. Ryan, congrats on the Durham location for ACBN.
Thank you.
We're making steps one day at a time, so congrats to you, bro. Yesterday was good. That was a great conversation. It's always good to learn about other people's businesses and what they're trying to accomplish, because my growth is dependent almost primarily on the people I surround myself with, and most of those are people like our clients and people I mentor. So, I learned a whole lot yesterday. So I appreciate the introduction to both of those women. Actually, they're both female.
Yeah, Black women. One. I won't even reveal their business because I don't think I have the right to. So we just keep it quiet. But Ray, what's been going on in your world?
We're reading pretty well. As you've a lot of financial stuff in the news. We've seen,
Yes.
the interest rates are now beginning to impact homeowners. People are renewing. So our conversation today is going to be about mortgage arrears and mortgage default. A place you don't really want to find yourself as a homeowner or as a real estate investor, but some of us do find ourselves there. Before we start this morning, I want to find out where our listeners are listening from. So if you can tell me what city you're in, or if you're in the US or Canada or the Caribbean, that'd be great, because the process of default is a bit different depending on your jurisdiction.
Yeah. So definitely. So call to action. So people, and I should start saying that at the beginning of each one of our conversations. So fine with the fine. Thank you for the reminder. So if you can put in the chat wherever you are, especially if you're watching live, where are you residing? Canada, US, or if you want to get down specific city, that'll help Ray better serve you in regards to answers. Because again, he had mentioned that policies. Okay, hold on. There we go. So here's first person, Naleen from Jacksonville, Florida. Thank you again. She's always here when Ray's on. Michelle Thorpe, GTA. Thank you both ladies for coming in first. So Ray, where do you want to start on? Actually, before we get into that, before you and I went live, we were talking about interest rates. Tell me about a client that you just started with and how their interest rate just dropped a lot in a short period of time.
Yeah, a lot of financial chaos in the US that we've seen in the last few days can impact interest rates positively for mortgage applicants here in Canada, because it affects the bond markets, which is what really determines long-term rates. So we had a client we got an approval for a 5-year mortgage with one of the largest banks in Canada. I think it got approved last week, Thursday or Friday. The rate was 5.29%. And as the crisis unfolded in the US, that rate dropped to 4.95. And then yesterday, it dropped, I think, to 4.59 or something like that. So within a 48 to 72 hour period, the rates dropped by almost 0.70%, which on a $500,000 or $600,000 mortgage, that's a significant amount of interest savings in the long term. So, it's very important for those who are buying right now or refinancing their mortgage, have a conversation with a mortgage advisor to see what the rates are doing since they got their commitment or their approval and today. That's just,
Are you able to give a bit of insight into why it would drop? So the prime rate didn't move, but the bank was willing to drop it.
Prime rates and fixed rates are two different things.
Yeah.
Prime rates are based on the government's fiscal policies. Fixed rates are based on bond yields. So it's actually money moving to safety. So that's a whole economics class in itself.
Gotcha.
But yeah, a lot of times people confuse the bank raising their overnight rate with all mortgage rates moving, and that's not correct. And but that's a conversation we can have on a different segment.
Yeah, maybe that's a next month conversation. I think right there, I think there's a whole session on that, and I think it'd be really, really relevant for a lot of people. So let's get back to some other so people are saying Christopher Lawrence, Toronto, Aldefina, Toronto, Klaus, Kitchener, Cindy Ann, Brampton, and one other thing before we let Ray loose. Klaus says, I think I'm going to move to San Francisco now. This is a perfect opportunity to take advantage of your American citizenship. I don't think it's going to be applicable to people who are moving there because our people, once they hear that, they're going to want to pile into San Francisco.
But if they haven't voted it in yet, you might have time to get there. and top it all, you got to be able to afford San Francisco. If you think Toronto's expensive, oh man,
San Francisco is even crazier. Okay, Roger Dundas says, Black Canadian Creators, Etobicoke. Wow, we got lots of fans. Roger Dundas Whitby. So here we go. So Ray, I would say most of your audience right now is Canadian.
Okay, thank you very much for participating. Yeah, good. One of the challenges a lot of homeowners are very wary of is going into mortgage arrears and mortgage default.
Yep.
Of course, let's define the two things. So mortgage arrears is when you've missed payments on your mortgage. So you've got a mortgage for X number of dollars. Your payments are due weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, or monthly. And when that payment is due, based on your contractual agreement with your lender, you're unable to make that payment. Right? So you're a month in arrears, or you're 2 weeks in arrears, etc. Mortgage default is a little different. Mortgage default is when you have reached a contractual agreement with your lender. So mortgage arrears can be the predecessor to mortgage default, but mortgage default does not only mean that you are able to pay your mortgage. There are many other times when a mortgage can actually go into default. So many people think that mortgage arrears is a particular period of time. So many clients will come to us and say, well, I heard that being in arrears of my mortgage is 3 months. If I'm 3 months late, I'm in arrears of my mortgage. And usually it's payments. It's not a time period. So in your mortgage contract or your mortgage approval or your standard charge terms, or in the US, your trust deed, it will specifically outline the terms of your mortgage agreement with your lender. And I'm not too sure how many homeowners actually read that document, but it is very important to read it.
It's a heavy document.
Bank's position and your position if you run into a problem paying your mortgage, and what the remedies are to get out of that situation. So usually it's payments, right? In your standard charge terms, it will tell you the lender will start default proceedings after X number of payments are noted in arrears. It can be 3 payments, it can be 2 payments, it can be 1 payment. Each lender is different. So if you're paying your mortgage weekly and you noted the default after 3 payments, 3/4 ways down into the month, you were in default of your mortgage. If you're paying your mortgage bi-weekly, then it's a month and a half. If you're paying your mortgage monthly, then it's 3 months. When I first started out in the late 90s, I had a lot of first-time buyers. Many of them wanted to pay their mortgage bi-weekly, accelerated, because they pay less interest and they pay it off a few years sooner. However, I advise them not to. The simple reason that is the payment shock that comes with being an apartment renter and a homeowner, and there are many other costs people incur over and above their mortgage payment, their taxes, and their property and their utilities when they become a homeowner. There's buying stuff for your backyard. There's I want to paint rooms over. So you spend a lot of money in a very short space of time that you would not have spent if you're living in an apartment. I usually advise first-time buyers to pay their mortgage monthly until they get the rhythm. They got their budget in place now, and then you shift to pay it bi-weekly or however
keep with what they're used to.
Yes. Because you don't want to get in that situation where trying to catch up on late payments, because it's not that a car loan's a few $100s. We're talking thousands of dollars in some cases. And in today's market, most of the mortgages are around $3,000 a month. Yeah. If you miss a payment, if you can't pay 1 payment and you end up being behind the 8 ball, you have a 9 months payment plus the legal fees if it goes to a lawyer, you could be in arrears $10,000, $13,000 in a very, very fast, short space of time. Right? So it's very important to understand the difference. So default will occur in some cases if the mortgage goes into arrears and then the lender sends it to their collections department or to their lawyers. Mm-hmm. So the most common form of default is missed or late payments. But there are other forms of types of default that most people are quite unaware of. One, arrears property taxes. In your standard charge terms or your trust deed, it will very clearly say that you have the responsibility to make sure your property taxes are paid as agreed. Now, some lenders will pay your property taxes for you here in Canada. Some lenders don't, because that's an administrative process that your mortgage lender might not be interested in being part of. And again, to avoid it, I usually advise my clients to have the lender, if they do, pay their property taxes or enroll in what is called a tax payment plan with your local municipality. That way, your property taxes come out every month by pre-authorized withdrawal. So the probability of missing your property taxes becomes significantly reduced. In the US, it's a little different. If I get to the US, let me go to the next one that can put you in default. Your condo fees. Delinquent condo fees also constitute being in default of your mortgage. If you buy a condominium, whether it's a townhouse or a high-rise condo, or even a detached home that's in a condominium development, if you miss your condominium fees, then again, you are now in breach of your contract and can be noted in default. Property insurance. You don't maintain adequate property insurance on your home. That way, you're not securing the bank's interest in your property in the event the property is damaged by fire, flood, or some other natural disaster. You are again noted in default of your mortgage, right? And then the one that most people don't think about is renovations. Home renovations. You buy a home, it's probably 50 years old, and you decide you want to renovate it significantly. You have significantly altered the security that the bank holds. And I've seen it firsthand where clients will buy a property. You haven't told the lender you plan to renovate the property significantly. And you rip up floors, knock out bathrooms, and the house is a shell. So if you can't afford to pay them, when the bank approaches you to take possession of their security, it is not what they thought they lent you the money for, because they can't now sell this property. The bank is not in the business of managing properties or doing construction projects. They're in the lending money. That's what lenders do. So those are the primary reasons why you can note in default in your mortgage, right? And the construction one, when people do renovations in the homes, and the condo fees and the property taxes and home insurance are usually the ones that most people aren't aware of. Now, what would happen in some cases, let me go back to the US situation. In the US, most of the default situations occur when you miss your payment. And they have what is called an escrow account. So all of your home associated liabilities, which is your mortgage payment, property taxes, and condo fees, are usually paid by your mortgage lender. And they take that money in escrow. So they always make sure that they're paying the insurance, the property insurance, and the condo fees on your behalf. And they also collect their mortgage payment. So the probability of going into default in most US jurisdictions, because you didn't make your property tax payments, your condo fees, is highly unlikely. So when you see mortgages going to default in the US, it's usually a case where that person's not paying, the payments aren't being made for the entire product. That's what usually happens.
So, masterclass in session. So what we're going to do here, I think Ryan is frozen, but that's no problem. I'm just going to catch up on some comments. So first things first, I want to shout out Black Canadian content creators from Etobicoke. Also, Klaus says his mortgage went up by $2,000. Wow, wow, wow. That is crazy. And I know he mentioned earlier on he has some properties, but I can't find it. But, oh, yes, here we go. And he also owns four properties. So that is quite interesting. And what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick little break because we've just got to do a little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, we lost Ryan. So Ryan will be back in just a moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick little promo here, supporter of the Dr. Vibe Show. So we got it here. Just give me a second, folks. It's a little bit wild this morning. Here we go. There we go. So want to say that, are you looking for a natural and delicious way to boost your immune system? Look no further than elderberry syrup. It's made from antioxidant-rich elderberry fruit. This syrup has been used for centuries to support overall wellness and fight off colds and flu. Elemental Notes is the maker of this, and their elderberry syrup is made with organic elderberries, natural ingredients, and is free from artificial flavors and preservatives. Just a spoon a day can help you stay healthy and happy all year round. Don't wait until it's too late. Try their elderberry syrup today. And I will have their contact information up in just a moment. And what we're going to do is we're going to come back to Ray. So Ray, yeah, this mortgage stuff, like mortgage arrears, et cetera, is a pretty serious subject. Are you seeing more and more of it over the last few months?
Well, what we've seen, and I think Klaus alluded to that, is because rates have changed significantly over the last 6 months, is that many people's payments have jumped significantly who have seen their mortgage, who have renewed their mortgage in that period of time. So if you came from a 2% mortgage and matured over the last 6 months, you had to renew it. Then you can see your mortgage jump from 2%, interest rates are from 2% to probably 4.5%, 5%, and in some cases as high as 6 or 7%. Now, I think in one of our previous conversations, we spoke about the mortgage in the US as opposed to here being very different. In Canada, our mortgages are based on renewable terms, so 6 months to 10 years. So you have a 6-month term up to a 10-year term. In the US, the term of your mortgage is either 15 years, 25 years, or 30 years. So mortgages in the US don't renew the way our mortgages renew. So in the US, most people will renegotiate their mortgage if they find themselves in a favorable rate environment. So they tend to have more control over the mortgage planning process than we do here in Canada, because we're always trying to figure out where rates will go in the future when our mortgage matures. And nobody has a crystal ball. We're never going to figure it out. There's no magical science to figuring that out. So we're at the mercy of whatever the rate is when that mortgage renews. But that gets back to what really causes mortgage arrears and delinquencies. And contrary to popular belief, it is not new buyers who end up in arrears most of the time. It's usually people who own their home for longer periods of time, usually 5 years or longer. And a couple of things happen. The first is probably financial mismanagement. So you buy a home that you bought too much home that you can afford to buy. You've extended yourself and you found yourself scrambling every month to pay this mortgage, and you're always trying to borrow from one person to pay somebody else, and the debt starts to snowball and accumulate. So in my experience over the last 25 years in the mortgage industry is that my default clients are usually people who had a home between 5 and 15 years. That's usually the time period. And if the market corrects slightly or your home wasn't maintained and it's the value has declined because of poor maintenance or market correction, then you're more impacted in the default situation.
And Ray, would you see that more mismanagement of finances than just life events, like based on? I was
going to come to that next. So the next thing you have is marital discourse, where marriage breaks down. And sadly, in the Afro and Caribbean community, that is much more prevalent. We have a lot of common law, people who live common law and are in adult relationships that buy homes together. So they sign a financial contract, but they don't sign a marriage contract. And if one party leaves, then usually they can't afford a home. Now, I'm not a marriage counselor or a relational counselor, but I think that's one of the reasons that I see frequently within the African, the Black and Caribbean community in the Greater Toronto area. The next thing is financial infidelity, where you've got spouses in a home or people in a home together, and there is no cohesive financial.
Ryan, Ryan's not heard of that term before. Financial infidelity, and it is
that bad that it causes.
Well, I can share a story with you. So back in the 90s, I worked for one of the major banks, and someone I know moved up to Barrie. At that time, Barrie was the hot spot. You can buy a nice home in Barrie for under 300,000. 3,000 square feet in a nice big lot. Now, Barrie and casino are synonymous.
Yes.
So the person I'm referring to had a very successful business in Toronto. He's one of the first Black guys I knew in the city who had a multi-million-dollar business. And his spouse at the time was a healthcare professional. So they both had he had a 6-figure income. He had a very high 6-figure income. When I first went to Toronto, they were my business mentors. So they moved to Barrie, bought a nice home, and the spouse started going to the casino.
Okay.
A gambling addiction.
Right.
And the husband never knew what the wife was doing. And because he was running this very successful business, and his business was still in Toronto, was in Etobicoke, he left all the financial management of the home to his spouse. Right. He didn't know that there was a problem with their mortgage until he got a knock from the sheriff. So when your house goes into default, the sheriff knocks on your door and does what's called an occupancy check. They check to see whether the house is rented, where the original owners are still living in the home, where the house is abandoned, where it's to grow up. They check for a series of things. And then they found out, that's when he found out that his mortgage is actually in arrears. I think it was about 4 or 5 months in arrears.
Wow.
$15,000. Yeah. So yeah, financial infidelity is one of the primary reasons that a lot of mortgages are going to default, because there's no cohesive family spousal relationship, and everybody spend their money differently. And usually you find financial infidelity in people who have higher incomes as opposed to those who have lower incomes, because folks who have lower incomes are usually a lot more responsible for their money than many of us think. I mean, I've seen clients making $30 an hour who afford $400,000 mortgage by themselves, and clients who've got a combined income of $300,000 and they've got their life's a financial mess. So lower income doesn't necessarily translate into mortgage arrears and financial difficulty, because that person spends their money much more prudently than the person who is making a whole lot of money and just spends it with no plan.
And doesn't know where it's going.
Can I just interrupt just for a second? I want to give Elemental Notes there just to. So yes, we spoke about the elderberry syrup a few moments ago with Elemental Notes. There's their contact information, website, elementalnotes.ca, email is info@elementalnotes, and also their socials, elementalnotes.ca. Continue.
Yeah. The next thing is job loss. I mean, that's unfortunate for many of us. If you lose your job in a contracting economy, you need two incomes to live. Then obviously it's going to be difficult to make some of your payments, and your mortgage can suffer as a result. Illness, a spouse gets ill, the homeowner gets ill, child gets ill, and you got to deal with extensive time off of work. You find yourself in an accident, you're in disability, your income is being reduced significantly, and again that will affect your household budget. A spouse passing away, right? Somebody dies, they had no life insurance, or they didn't have adequate insurance. And again, you find yourself in a problem if you can't afford your property. For real estate investors, one of the most common times they find themselves in arrears or default is if there is no real plan about how they build their investment portfolio. A tenant moves out of the home needs repairs, there's no slush fund of money for your capital expenditures or to basically finance that mortgage until you have a new tenant. And then you're stressed out, you're scrambling because your rent goes directly to your mortgage payment. There's no additional surplus funds or anything. So the place is empty for a month or 2 months. You find yourself predicament. So for investors, it's very important to make sure that your revenue and your expenses are not matched dollar for dollar, because if there's a repair or a vacancy, then you're now paying for that investment property out of your own pocket. And if you don't have enough resources to take care of your principal residence and the investment property, something will suffer. And we do a whole masterclass on real estate investment when it comes to how to manage your investment portfolio successfully. Nice. Those are the primary reasons that you find people going into mortgage default on their home. And the marriage, the financial infidelity and the marital discourse and the collapse of relationships is probably the higher up the food chain, because maybe if the spouses aren't communicating properly, one person stops paying the mortgage, and then everything starts to fall apart. In the default process or in the delinquency process, the lender will first contact you, and don't put your head in the sand. Take that phone call. So what we found over the years is that many clients ignore that phone call, and then they come to us. It's usually 6 months later or 5 months later, and the question we always ask them, well, why didn't you come to us before? Because you have to know if you head into a default situation. If there's no money in your bank to pay your mortgage, then you got to find a solution. And usually there are solutions if it's done in a timely manner. So what usually happens in many cases is so you've got a few options. When that bank calls you, respond to them. Because in your mortgage contract, there may be certain clauses that allow you to miss payments. So you can actually miss a mortgage payment and catch up on the circumstances that have put you in that position. There may be clauses that allow you to defer a payment to the end of the term. So if you're in a situation where you can't make this next month's payment because you're in between jobs, you just lost your job and you found a new one, then defer the payment, because you still got to pay your car insurance. You still got to take your kids to school, put them in daycare or whatever the case may be. You still got to buy groceries. So do not try to become a hero and try to do it yourself. I always tell people they're not living heroes, they're all dead heroes, right? And you don't want to pay financial debt. And not DEBT, DEATH,
Yes.
because the two things are very different. So, yes, first the lender will contact you and they will say, you know what, Mr. Knight, we call you your mortgage, you missed your last payment. Is there anything we can do to help you? And most times clients say, no, I'm going to figure it out. But no, you can't figure it out. If you're expecting a windfall or a lot of things, how are you going to figure it out?
Hero. Right.
That's your best ally. If it goes past the lender situation and goes into default, it now goes to the bank's collection office, then it goes to the lawyers. When it goes to the lawyer, then gets to the lawyer, your arrears payments have now increased by an additional $3,000 to $4,000.
Wow.
So the lawyer will not charge you their fees.
Yes, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And any money you pay towards that delinquency or that default payment, the lawyers take their money first.
Of course.
And it's a lot more difficult talking to a large law firm who's managing defaults, because they don't know you as a client, they don't know your personal situation. It's a lot more difficult to deal with a law firm than to deal with the lender's collection department. So I always tell my clients, do not ignore the phone call. Right? So as soon as you get that arrange phone call, you come to your mortgage professional, bring us all the documents, let us go through it, because usually there's a very simple solution. And as I said earlier, most people going to default aren't new homeowners. It's usually people who own their home for 5 years or longer. So
Right.
a couple of things.
Or they might have a bit of equity built up or something.
You have equity in your home, and you have amortization room that you can play with. So we can sit down with you, work through your budget, and decide now, how do we restructure all this debt to help you keep your home? It might mean consulting your car payment, that $400 a month car payment, into your mortgage, extending the amortization, and then in effect reducing your monthly cash outlay. So it is very important to have the conversation. Do not ignore it. It's
all
not
right.
going to go.
As always, when Ray's dropping knowledge bombs, people are answering. So I'm going to catch up because there's a whale of comments here as usual, which is a good thing. So first things first, what would Ray be on without Divine Right? So Divine Right says, good morning from the DMV area. Tim Frey, good morning. Actually, myself, Ryan, and Tim and others were on a conversation earlier this week. It was fire. Yeah, we're not going to get into details of it. You had to be there. Good morning, Bacaville from Brampton. Also, Klaus says, that's why I only on duplex, triplexes, and 4-unit properties, just for that reason. If there's a vacancy, at least 4 of the units will carry the mortgage.
Gotcha.
Divine Right says, that happened to me in 2010. I had to short sell my house because my mother was sick, didn't have life insurance, and things fell apart. We combined our income to help each other, and then she passed.
Right.
Sorry to hear that, Divine Right.
Alafina says, so insightful. And then Michelle has a question. Are there any programs in place that provide options for clients who are months into their renewed mortgage period and are having difficulties, quote, keeping up, unquote, e.g. breaking mortgage and finding new rates, right?
Yes. First, that's what a plus. I mean, plus approach makes a lot of sense. And I always tell clients that buying multifamily as an investor is one of the most prudent ways to scale your portfolio and to try to deal with the short-term issues we run into as it relates to investing. If there's a vacancy or you need to renovate a unit. Yes, there are programs in place for homeowners who are struggling with mortgage payments. So let me first define it. You've got high ratio borrowers, which is people who buy a home with less than 20% down payment, and that's an insured mortgage. So in the US and Canada, it's basically the same thing. You have the mortgage insurance, and this is not mortgage life insurance, this is mortgage default insurance. Those home buyers, they are programs in place by the insurers, whether it's a HUD program or CMHC, Sagan, or Canada Guarantee, that will allow you to renegotiate your mortgage or they give you what is called certain remedies to own your home. Because the purpose of having a mortgage or buying a home in North America is not to have you out of your home in 6 months or a year if you're into a problem. So the insurers will work with you. If the mortgage is insured by a default insurer, they will specifically work with you, remedy your situation, because most times it's a short-term situation. Now, if it's a conventional mortgage where you've put down 20% or more and there's no insurance in that property, no mortgage default insurance, then you want to work with the lender. And there's a couple of things to do. If you bought a home a few years ago and the values increase, and you find yourself in a situation where you're struggling with payment, you might be able to do what is called a blend and extend with your lender. So let's say you bought your home in a high interest rate environment and rates have dropped. You can extend your mortgage back out for a longer period of amortization, which can effectively drop your mortgage payments. Right? So that's one of the first things you want to look at. If there's other debt involved that is also making the homeownership process difficult, you might be able to incorporate some of that debt or all of that debt into the mortgage and in effect increase your cash flow. So if you got a $2,000 mortgage and then another $1,000 in personal debt, car loans, credit cards, lines of credits, then if you put all that debt together and extend the amortization, then you might be in a position to remedy your crisis. Now, there are some lenders, non-bank lenders, who are now offering clients interest-only mortgages, institutional lenders. So by doing that, you can now pay the interest only on your mortgage until you're in a better position. So there are many situations out there that will help you to deal with it. So the first thing you have to do is, before it gets out of control, is sit down with somebody and go through the scenario, go through the options, and see which one works best to remedy your circumstances.
So basically, ask. Get your ego out of the way and ask.
Yeah. And it's just not ego. What usually happens is people they're overwhelmed.
Or fear.
There's fear. I mean, first of all, if you deal with financial infidelity or marriage discourse, or you've got a sick relative, you are so consumed with that situation that you're trying to juggle all these eggs. You're going to drop some of them, and you have a holy mess.
True.
Right? So a lot of times you pick up the phone and you have that one conversation, because what we've learned over the years, we can empathize with our client's situation. There's no judgment. Everybody default. I've had mortgages going to default. I've had investment properties where the lawyers put the sign on the door and the sheriff locked the door, and I've had to put my card and get to the lawyers in Hamilton with a check before 4 o'clock. Unless they're going to list the house. So I know exactly what that process is like. I'm not alienated. And any real estate investor who is trying to juggle and flip and do real estate would find themselves in that situation. Right. If you're doing the flip, for example, you're always under budget. There's always cash overruns. So if you can get your renovation done within a short period of time, and you've got this mortgage trying to juggle, and the place is empty, you got to pay the mortgage and your rent out of your pocket, something is going to have to give if the construction process is not done in a timely manner. So I know firsthand how to navigate that default system. I've had that letter several times in my office.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So I empathize with your situation. There's no judgment. So speak to somebody who has the experience, who understands it, and there's a plethora of products out there that you can use that will help you to go through the process and come out on the other side with not as many bruises and still hold on to your property.
Nice. Ryan, any questions? Oh, before we get you, I know Ryan may have one or two things to say. Divine Right is saying, thank you. That was also when the market crashed, so I couldn't sell my house for what I even bought it for. Wow. Yeah. And then Aldovina saying gems. Go ahead.
2008 was a very tough year for many American homeowners because they found themselves underwater or upside down. So many do what is called a short sale. So a short sale in the US is when you're selling your home because the mortgage amount is more than the value of the property. And the impact on your credit is not as significant as if you're allowed to go into default. So, I mean, for a lot of homeowners in the US, I had friends in Florida who, owed $100,000 more on their mortgage than their house was actually worth.
Right.
And some of them walked away. Some tried to sell it. The other part we have to look at that goes into default is a HELOC, which is a little different from how mortgage default is handled. So a HELOC, as most people know, is a home equity line of credit.
Mm.
And a lot of homeowners don't think of the HELOC as a mortgage. When you ask a client, do you have a mortgage? They will say no, but then they'll say, well, I have a mortgage also, but I have a HELOC also. Sorry.
No, they don't think they have a second mortgage.
Yeah. The HELOC, if it's in first position or second position, it's registered against your home and it's a mortgage. Now, most HELOCs are interest-only payments, and people take those HELOCs either as a reserve, safety, and cash flow resource, either to invest in the stock market or other real estate, help their kids with their tuition, or just have it for their lifestyle expenses. Now, the HELOC is usually interest-only payments. So if you had $100,000 HELOC on your home, your payments are probably like $2-something a month. It's not a very large payment. If you had $100,000 mortgage in your home, your payment's probably about $800 a month or $700 a month, depending on the amortization. So what happens with a HELOC? If you run into a financial crisis and you can't afford to pay your HELOC, the interest only on your HELOC, sometimes the lender will convert your HELOC to an amortizing loan. So if you're struggling paying the interest only and they don't amortize it over 15 years or 10 years, so they want their money back. If they put over 10 years, your payment is going to jump from $200+ a month to probably $800 or $900 a month. So if you couldn't afford to pay $200 a month, how are you going to afford to pay $900 a month?
True.
$600 a month. So in that situation, again, you want something more professional. Look at the overall debt situation, and let's figure out how we can extend the amortization, consolidate debt. In case where stuff is delinquent, how can we renegotiate with certain creditors, reduce the payout amounts? Like, there's a whole lot of solutions you can have when you are in a crisis financially, because usually the mortgage crisis is usually the last thing to go into to crisis compared to other stuff. Usually the credit cards are already in arrears, the car payments are in arrears, so the mortgage is the last thing that feels the brunt of somebody who's having financial problems. So you want to deal with it sooner rather than later.
And before, when my internet dropped off, you were talking about the repairs that you might do at your house causing the default. That I just wanted to note as quite interesting. I remember reading that in our mortgage agreement. I was like you have to tell your lender almost everything that's happening. But I was curious around what questions could we ask our mortgage agent when things are starting to fall apart? Because you said, hey, if we're struggling, go to, like, if you're our mortgage agent, go to you and say, hey, this is what's happening. So what could we be asking our mortgage agent when things start to get rocky to see if we have the right mortgage agent, or should we switch to you because they might not know what to do?
Well, it's not necessarily having the right or wrong mortgage agent. I mean, yes, it is to some extent. I mean, I think the more important thing is to sit down and have a transparent conversation. Because usually if you're having problems paying your mortgage, it's very simple. It's a cash flow issue. So either you bought too much house, or your income has changed negatively, or rates have doubled and you renewed your mortgage and your payment has gone up as costly by $2,000 a month. I don't think there's many homeowners in the GTA or even in the US who can actually withstand a $2,000 a month mortgage increase.
True.
I mean, that would kill most people. $300 a month will kill most people, much as $2,000 a month. So I think the first thing you want to do if you find in that situation is to call your lender or more professional and figure out what options you have in terms of renegotiating your mortgage and other debt to reduce your payments. So it's usually a case of income versus expenses. That's what our life is based on, income and expenses.
Yeah.
Right? Welcome to North America.
Yes,
right?
yes.
It be used, right? But we've got to have that conversation. Sometimes it's lifestyle. I mean, if like I always ask people, what's your discretionary spending? And it's, well, I need $1,000 to spend just on stuff. Well, you spend $1,000 a month on stuff that you don't even know what it is.
Yes.
Right? Then you might want to stop spending that stuff and focus on paying off your debt. I saw an article in the papers a few weeks ago about a couple from Brazil who was complaining that homeownership is so hard in Toronto and that everybody's struggling, and they came to Canada and it wasn't the Canadian dream. And in the article, it spoke about their car payments were $1,000 a month. for these two cars. Now, if your car payment is $2,000 a month, when you factor in car insurance, gas, and maintenance, you probably spend about $1,000 a month. And if you factor in auto insurance, basic maintenance, and gas, that $1,000 a month car payments translate in probably into $2,000 a month
in spending, right?
Expenditure. So your problem is not the fact that cleaning house have gotten expenses. Your problem is you have no proper budget and you're spending money on bullshit. It's very simple. Get rid of the damn cars, move into region, jump on the bus. That's not a housing issue. That's a decision you made to have two car payments.
Yes,
Why would a young family have two car payments that are costing them almost $1,000 a month to run those two cars? Right? You buy one car cash, a little beta, and then you finance one. That's the prudent thing to do. But a lot of times, everybody wants a comfortable lifestyle. And until you find yourself in a crisis, then you have to step back and say, okay, what can I load shed to make my life easier? Because you have two solutions. Either sell the house or get rid of some of the debt.
Yes.
It's very simple. There's no magical formula. Which one you want to do? And neither one's going to be comfortable.
True.
Right? So you got to say which one is going to help you to get from point A to the destination of your journey. It's that simple.
Well, and I think that lends to an interesting conversation around what is the plan? Like that, when you're mentioning that article, it didn't seem like they had a real plan for what their housing strategy is going to be, or just for life. And I would say I'm guilty of not having, let's say, a life plan until we started getting deeper into looking for a house and realizing we had to organize a lot of things before this would even get through. So not having that plan, like you said, because you can find where to improve or efficiencies in your budget. Like sometimes you have to sacrifice some things and say, listen, these things have to get cut out, even though it sounds difficult.
I think adding on to it too, let's be honest here, that many of us are not given this education when we're growing up. So it compounded with not getting that financial education growing up, plus whether it's fear, ego, pride, we're challenged to take that first step of saying, you know what, I'm in trouble. I need help.
I disagree with that to some extent, Dr. Vibe. I think what we see today is a lot of folks who are living their life based on TV personalities. I have clients with me all the time. The first question they ask me is, what's the maximum mortgage I can qualify for? And I have a little quote I share every now and then. The mortgage you qualify for from your lender is not necessarily the mortgage you can afford. You can qualify for $1 million mortgage because the numbers work. Doesn't mean you can afford it. And many times we ask, when clients come to us and say, well, what's the maximum mortgage I can get? The question we usually ask them, how much do you want to spend a month? And we have never met anyone as yet where those two numbers correlate. What they want to spend per month and what they want to qualify for is night and day. In the fact that what they want to spend is significantly less than what they qualify for. And that happens every single time.
Yes.
Right? And when they have that reality check, you qualify for a $600,000 mortgage, you can only afford to pay for a $300,000 mortgage. So if you were the professional who's not going to have that concern with you and just going to give you what you qualify for, what you asked for, they're actually putting you in a situation to fail. Because once you move to that home, if you out of the GTA, for example, let's say you live in Mississauga and you work at Square One, you bought a house in Kitchener, your commuting cost is probably doubled. So not only has your housing costs increased because your mortgage is not more than your rent, but you're now commuting every day back and forth. So wear and tear, gas consumption, all that stuff has now gone up, probably by 40%. So we have to sit down at all of your spending to determine what makes sense so that you don't find yourself in an arrears situation or end up in a mortgage default. And for investors, they have to be even more careful. Because if you're a real estate investor and you've got a property that may need repairs, you bought and you don't need repairs, you have to know that you have the reserve fund to do this work, pay your new mortgage while your unit is probably empty for a period of time.
Yes.
Right? Is that I'm going to buy a property for $1 million? My mortgage is $4,000 a month, and my rent is $5,000 a month. So okay, I win. There's a lot of other costs in between. But if you have to pay that $4,000 a month for 5 months, and that revenue is not coming into from your tenants, then you will find yourself in a problem, right? So either you have a line of credit or you have cash in your pocket.
Right. So we got some, as usual, the comments are flying because Ray is dropping knowledge bombs. Divine Right saying making it plain, Ray. Fitness IQ Cam, very true. Earl Anderson says think forward, love now. Aldefino says so true, Ryan. Progressive planning seems to be a concept eluding many of my peers. Fitness Cam talking about that couple that Ray mentioned, living their life. And Divine Right says, like you said the last time, Ray, the best car is paid for. And Aldefina says it's like I'm speaking another language sometimes when she's sharing this stuff with people. So there you go.
I love it. I love it.
Lots of people on the fire today. Ryan, go ahead. If you have
and again, that being able to have somebody to talk with about these types of issues, like you said, a lot of times it gets either pushed to the back burner or it's embarrassing to talk about. So that relationship with the mortgage broker, and I know a lot of times once we get the mortgage, we don't want to see the broker for like 5 years until you need it again. But what I'm learning here is that communication engagement should be ongoing. Do you recommend like those check-ins, like if even nothing's going wrong, or kind of when things are getting rocky? What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, you have life changes, right? I mean, let's say, for example, a client bought a home, they had no children. Then 2 years in, they've got 2 kids. You know, childcare expenses. And when clients call us, I can usually hear the stress in their voice. I talk to them all the time. So, I mean, I ask, is everything okay? You know, we have some kids, and, you know, but let's have a conversation. How can we fix it? What's also important is understand the timeline of events and what options you have when you go in between when the sheriff knocks on your door and default, right? So you have there's dates and everything. There's everything is but then you get a letter from the lawyer, right? It goes to your lawyer. They tell you got X number of days to respond. Yes. You have to respond. Like real estate is very time sensitive. It's like playing football. You know, seconds and yards. It's the same thing in real estate. Everything from the time you buy your home, the conditional financing, conditional inspection, everything has to be done in a certain time period. There's a waiver condition, 72 hours, 48 hours, right? 5 days, 10 days, 28 days, including weekends, excluding weekends. You have to understand the process. When you understand the process, not just for real estate investors or people who want to flip real estate, once you understand the process, you can navigate it. Because most times, if you're an investor, you're working on your solution in the background. But you need time. So find yourself a good real estate lawyer to represent you. Have your broker ready in case you need an exit. And then have your lawyer deal with the lender's lawyer. Because
have a team. There's
always
I'm hearing like a power team here.
Right? So you have your lawyer signed to their lawyer. And find a lawyer who does real estate only and who the other lawyers have someone to give respect for. Because there's lawyers and there's lawyers. So in our field, we work with very few real estate lawyers because when they call the big law firm, because most of the banks deal with very large law firms. So if your lawyer is some guy, but he knows who he is, and he calls, they think it's just plain BS. Right? I worked with one of the best lawyers for 7 years in Toronto, and he called a default lawyer, and he said, "Well, my broker said they can get a solution, which is usually our office. Everything goes on pause, right? So you want to get, you want to understand how to navigate the system. So I mean, well, first of all, you can't have 2 listings for the same house. So one way to hold off the default, if you're an investor or even a homeowner, right? You try to navigate the system, list the house for sale. Because if you list the house for sale, the lender or the lender's lawyer can't list the same house with another realtor. There's only one listing contract, right? So you list the house, it gives you time, or you get a mortgage commitment. from another lender. So if you have a $500,000 mortgage, it's 4 months in default. 4 months arrears, sorry, it's gone into default. You come to a mortgage professional, you get a mortgage commitment, you give it to your lawyer, right? They send it across to the lawyer who's managing the default process and say, okay, my client has a commitment. We've got all the conditions met. We're going to pay you off in 30 days.
Right,
so it gives you time to figure out, okay, am I going to sell the house? Am I going to get a tenant? Because on the default letter, you have until 4 o'clock on the day of that letter is dated to remedy your situation. You can get to the lawyer and hand them that check on the day, the last day. They have to take it.
Yes.
They have to take it from you, right? So once you understand the process, right, and not panic and put your head in the sand and talk to the right people, you can usually get out of the situation if it's a conventional mortgage and it's not, it's not insured by a lender.
All right. Got some more comments here. Klaus says, I check with my mortgage broker once every 6 months, and I use Butler Mortgage, great mortgage company. I've used them for all 4 of my properties. Okay. Divine Right says, I agree with what was said about talking to people. It's as if I'm talking a foreign language to a loved one, trying to educate someone on building their credit because they don't have any.
Right. Yes.
You got to have a team. You got to have a team, because that you're either going to play chess, or are you playing checkers, or are you playing chess?
And read your mortgage documents. I mean, I know many people get scared when they see all those amounts of paper, a lot of legal jargon, credit card agreements, loan agreements, mortgage agreements. It can be very overwhelming to the average person. But read it, try and understand what the words mean, understand the terminology, understand what constitutes default and what doesn't, understand what the time periods are if you find yourself in a crisis, you've gone through a marital breakdown, you've got an illness in your family, you've lost your job. As I said, most lenders will look to remedy your situation with you once they're aware of what is happening. If they don't know what's happening and they're blindsided, they're just going to respond in a very mechanical manner to you. And usually you're going to end up being the loser. The banks never lose in this situation. If the house has to be sold on the power of sale, you're the last person down the food chain to get paid.
Yes.
The house will be worth $1 million. It needs a coat of paint. The bank sells it for $950. You owe them $875. They pay their lawyer. They take their money. You get zero.
Right.
But if you talk to them, you renovate, you clean the home up, you sell it yourself. You're in a jam. You sell the house yourself. You sell it for $1,050,000. You give them their money. You open $100,000 in your pocket, right?
Yeah.
But that's somebody. I mean, we've lent clients money in the short term to fix their home completely. They're having problems. Fix their home, get the kitchen done, paint the place over, do the landscaping, list it, sell it, and downsize.
Yes.
You spend the $60,000, but you get $20,000, $200,000 more in your pocket. If you don't do anything and the bank sell it, they're going to sell it like a fire sale.
Yeah, and you're going backwards.
You won't be able to buy another home again. You have no money left.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
You have to talk to people because there are solutions.
Yeah.
And they're not as difficult as many people think they are. Right? It might be expensive in the short term, but remember, it's only in the short term.
Yeah.
Right?
Think long
Most
term.
Most only very short term.
Yeah.
Right? You got to have the conversation.
So Bacaville says, very insightful information. Klaus says, and I have a great real estate lawyer. That's why I give him all my business. Fitnance IQ Camp says, I want to play chess, not checkers. Marlon has a question for you, Ray. Is this listing hack specific to Ontario, or is this also in the U.S. states as well?
Anywhere.
There you go.
Once you list a home, you have to list in contracts. It's a legal contract, right? Okay. It's a non-arm's length listing contract. You can have two contracts on the same property. You can have two people trying to buy it, or you can have two trying to sell it.
All right. Well, I think Professor Ray has ended class today. None of my professors ever did dress like this when I was going to school when they were giving a master class, but that is fantastic. Oh, hold on here. Vernity's good morning from Florida was on from the start, just listening. To get out of financial difficulty, some could check to see if they're if they could lease or take in a boarder, please comment.
Yeah, I mean I think that means border, not border. BOARDER.
Yeah,
Having
boarder.
a
Yeah.
room, and that's correct. I mean, if you're a young
Okay.
home owner, you've got a 4-bedroom home. It's just yourself and your spouse, but this is the home you want to buy for your family, but it's tight today. Then get yourself 2 roommates. I mean, I've got a young fellow who was bought a place in Florida. He's 24 years old, right? 3-bedroom home, but buying the home today makes a lot of sense because he bought it at a significant discount. He bought it at about a $60,000 discount. It's still expensive for him based on his age and his current income, but your income will always increase in the future, or should increase in the future, right? So yeah, get a boarder or roommate. I mean, there are many. If you're an older person, there are many seniors who are living by themselves. Siblings in some cases living in their own homes. So sell one house, live together. You got this income, and you can travel the world with your newfound jackpot. You know what I mean? But if you're young, get a roommate. I mean,
Right.
we have to rethink how we buy real estate. We're still, and I say this all the time, we're still focused on a very individual silo existence. And it's very difficult to win in that environment. I know it's difficult to share space sometimes, but it's usually very temporary. You know.
Okay. All right. So Michelle says, amazing session, great info. Thank you. Wonderful, wonderful. Ray, any closing comments before we let you go?
Liverpool Cup, Liverpool United. The ones who know. The ones who don't know.
Well, I'm at
Liverpool
the point
for
now.
life.
So for me,
Yes.
the more I know, the more I need to know. That's my thought process to say.
Yeah.
But Ray,
Liverpool
always
for life,
a pleasure.
man.
No problem. Bernard G says, thank you. Forgive the spelling errors. No worries. We got you. We got your back. Christopher says, great
That's my aunt
information.
actually in Florida.
Ah, okay.
She's
Good.
a school teacher, so I know she's very conscious of her spelling, so she's forgiven.
All right. Well, Ray, as always, Fitnance IQ says, great information, Raymond. Okay. And I'd like to say thank you as always. Like I said, Ray, we've spent a lot of time together over the last, I think, 12 hours digitally. So I want to say thank you for everything you do in order to help our people be better. We'll always be chatting, but if people, again, the contact information is there. Canada, US, toll free, website, email address. No harm just making a call and just having a conversation, family.
True.
As I said, the more you know, the more you need to know. So I'm speaking at least, well, they're regulars here, but even the regulars, reach out to Ray and just have a chat. He has a lot of evaluated experience that you don't know or we don't know. I give him calls periodically saying, Ray, I don't know about this. So let's get our egos out of the way and create wealth creation for the future. And don't rely on getting on reparations. You got to do it yourself sometimes. So, Ray, thank you as always. We'll chat soon. Have an outstanding day. Take care. All right. Whoa, that was a good session.
Love it. Love it.
The family was on the comments and the viewership live was out of bounds. It was beautiful today. Any takeaways from that, Ryan?
Hey, engage with your mortgage broker. Don't hide from your lender. Answer the phone.
Yeah. Well, and develop that relationship.
Yeah,
developing the relationship is really key because, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, I make sure. I know a lot of people say, I got to wait in line at a bank, but I've developed a relationship with my bank. And when I have a challenge or anything like that, I go in there and they always ask, how you doing? Is there anything we can help you with? And that's not only my business representative, but also the tellers at the front. We have a rapport. So developing that relationship is so important. So good stuff today. Thank you, everyone. And people who came on, you watched for the whole thing.
We appreciate you. Yes.
Really, I really appreciate you all who watch live. Like, I'm keeping track of the analytics. Lots of people stayed on for a long time. So that means that we're doing something okay because you want to hear this information.
True.
So Fantastic. And what's up for the weekend, Ryan?
There is an event happening tomorrow by Miriam, and the name escapes me. Actually, hold on, let me check. Anyhow, but I'm talking about grants and financing for businesses. So I will post about the event happening and what time I'm speaking, but definitely check it out. And I was trying to pull it up. So if I find it, I'll let you know. Okay. Other than that, and she's from Canada Vendors. So she's putting on the event.
They need to come on this platform.
Actually, yeah, I will touch base with Miriam.
Yeah, they need to come on here. They need to come on here. Michelle says Ray is great for taking time to chat with anyone. He is. I mean, like I said, now I've been involved over the last, I'd say 18, 19 hours. He's had 3 different conversations that I've been a part of, 2 with business owners and 1 with y'all. So he makes the time, right?
And it's International Women's Month. So Canada Vendors is doing International Women's Month event tomorrow.
Saying we're building, you are building an online nation. We are building, not you. We are building an online nation. Divine Right. Thank you so much. She says also, thank you, Ray. All right. So we are done. Man, now someone just jumped on now. Like, this is one of the most live viewed conversations we've ever had. So thank you again, Ray, and thank you to all of you. As you can see on the bottom, you can catch replays of this epic conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and Facebook, Afro Caribbean Business Network, Facebook and YouTube, and Ryan Knight. Actually, YouTube and LinkedIn. I've got to correct that. So hope everyone has a good weekend. All things being straight, we're going to talk about the R word on Monday, the R word, reparations. So we'll bring up that story that's going on in San Francisco about they're debating right now, the city council giving $5 million to every Black American that's living there now. Klaus, you can't come in there now and get your take.
So everybody that is living there, they're about to get a lot of cousins and aunties and uncles. They're going to get the phone call.
So unless something comes up last minute, we'll be chatting about that and other things that are going on around the world. As always, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get stronger to get
smaller to get stronger.
Stronger, yes, smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Two other last things. Remember to subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and like it on Facebook or wherever you're watching it. Also, this Sunday, Black Canada Talking. Wherever you're watching this now, or especially on the Dr. Vibe platform, not on Ryan's, Perry Douglas will be talking about his book, AI, Applied Intelligence, New Thinking for the Caribbean Prosperity in the 21st Century. You need to check that out. You need to catch Perry's other appearances on the platform. Also, if you want to promote your business or service on our show, contact Dr. Vibe, moi, at dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. I think we're done. And also big shout out to also Elemental Notes. Email them at info@elementalnotes.ca, socials at elementalnotes.ca. They actually were one of the top recipients or top winners at the pitch competition at ACB's last event. So they're legit, family. They're legit. So we're done. God bless. Peace well. Keep the faith. Oh, don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and remember to give yourselves grace. Now we're done. See you Monday.